Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Zoom In with Renee. I'm Dr. Renee Mehrra. My guest today is a trailblazer. She's a pioneer who has shattered many, many boundaries. She has broken the glass ceiling, has many firsts to her name. She's the first Indian woman to join the Indian Police Service in 1972. She's the first Indian and the first woman to be appointed in 2003 as United Nations Police Advisor in the United Nations peacekeeping operations. She is gutsy, she's daring, she's fearless, she's outspoken, she's assertive. She is Dr. Kiran Bedi. Thank you, Dr. Bedi ji, for joining us today from India.
Thank you, Dr. Renee. Thank you for giving me such a laudatory introduction.
Thank you. Thank you. And, there's so much to talk to you about. There's so many accolades that you have won. The Ramon Magsaysay Award, it's the Asian Nobel Peace Award. There's so many accolades. Let's talk about this journey of inspiration and empowerment, because it has inspired many women of many generations. So how did this begin?
It began by a daily investment without knowing it's an investment. It was daily, a daily life of personal discipline, daily life of a purpose, daily life of preparation, daily life of enjoying what I was doing, obviously being very well guided by my parents, very well mentored by them. So it's been a daily homework. It's been not a life of, erratism. It was a consistency in my life of work and living, right thinking, right doing. Righteousness was not imposed. It happened. It was a way of life. So right time management, right food. It was everything what was right for me at that age for what purpose I was. So it's been a life of quite a bit of personal direction.
You followed the T mantra, trust, empowerment, accountability all your life.
That's true. All this did lead to empowerment, because I knew education is empowering. But I didn't know that all this went into empowerment. Empowerment is a word, but what are the ingredients of empowerment? Ingredient of empowerment is a whole set of habits, which you don't even know that you're forming them. But once you form them, they make you. The habit of being self-driven, habit of being self-directed. So I think I didn't know, but they all are the ingredients of empowerment. But empowerment was not the goal. It was a journey I led. It led to empowerment. I just walked the direction. I just kept driving right without knowing what all it's going to give me alongside. But it led to many destinations, which were unique, probably the first time ever. So, and then once I reached a destination, it showed me the way to the next destination. So it's been a life of one destination, one halt, and then moving on to the other. It's been a long journey, but very methodical. There's no erraticism, no status quo either. It's a constant life of reinvention.
Self-directed, leading to new destinations, opening new doors. Empowerment was not the goal, but it just happened because as you were continuing 40 years in the Indian Police Service, that is amazing by itself. What an amazing innings. And in those amazing innings, you have so much you've done as the Inspector General of Delhi Police Tihar Jail, implementing innovative
police reforms and humane reform. So much can be said about of so many areas that you dealt with, and dealt with integrity, dealt with righteousness. And that brought so much of inspiration and empowerment to so many people. But not everybody likes when you're fighting injustice or you're trying to weed out corruption, and you pay a heavy price.
I didn't pay any price. I rewarded myself every time I did the right way. In fact, it was no price. In fact, I would have been paying a price if I deviated the path. And then I would have been into potholes, which I would have needed help to be brought out. I
Did you
just
make
stayed on
enemies?
the right road.
Did you make enemies?
I didn't wait to see who was my enemy. I just went on. I didn't have the time to get distracted. Of course, I'm not looking for applause from I'm not waiting. I wasn't working to get an applause. I was working because that's the right thing to do. What am I meant for? I did it for myself. I didn't work the right way, or I wasn't honest in my life, or exercised integrity at work for others. I did it because I thought that's me. Dishonesty is not my life. Untruth is not my life. Laziness is not my life. Acquisition without being deserving is not my life. I must earn my living, and I must earn and deserve what I get. So it was for me. I did it for my own happiness and my own peace of mind and my own self-confidence. Because had I deviated, I would have been dependent on others to save me or protect me or guard me. I didn't look for any guards. My own conduct was my guard. My character was my guard. So if there were people who were not happy with it, it is their problem, not me. I didn't wait to see, are you happy or you're not happy? Just as I didn't say, oh, I did so well. Did I do well? I have never stood by to say, did I do well? I ask myself, did I do the right thing? Did I do well? So if my answer, my own conscience tells me what I did well, that's well. My own conscience grades me on my actions. I don't wait for others to grade me. I self-grade.
That's so true. You created those pathways by being true to yourself, being conscientious. And that's what really matters in the end. If you're true to yourself, true to your conscience, you know what? If people don't like it, too bad. That's how I would say to myself. And there was a biopic made on you, Megan Donovan, and it brings your life to the fore, the fighting against challenges and against all odds, swimming against the tide. And it's very difficult, especially when we live in a patriarchal society. Most South Asian countries do. And we still need gender parity. It's not just confined to South Asian countries. It's across the world, gender parity, women playing a meaningful, substantial role. And you have done that. When we go back to the United Nations as a police advisor of the UN police, there's so many global challenges we're talking about when we're looking at global police challenges. So
that's your key question from a very interesting statement you made. If I could refer to the film you talked about, and then I'll come back to your last bit of your question. That film was very accidentally made. It just came by its destiny. The movie called Yes, Madam, Sir, by this Australian called Megan Donovan. She lives in Sydney, and she's been a part of the team of Lord of the Rings. She's a very accomplished young lady who was making films at that time. And she spotted me on the television while she was watching television in Australia. And that's the time as a teenager, she told her mom, I'm going to work with this woman. I'm going to film her. And can you beat it? She just packed a bag and came to Delhi and with a backpack. And she comes home. She walks home. She started to say, I want to do a documentary film. I didn't take her seriously on the email. And I said, what documentaries? What film? I just laughed at it, and I thought she wasn't a serious person. But can you believe it? She landed at my house doorstep and rang a bell and walked in. I'm Megan Donovan. I'm the one who's been emailing you for this film. I said, oh God, but were we really serious? She said, yeah, I want to do a documentary film on you. And I still wasn't, and I was wondering how she going to do it. Where is she going to stay? Has she got the resources? I didn't even work on whether she'll have the capability. I said, now that you come home, Megan, you are my guest. Now your safety is my responsibility. And you're a lonely woman by yourself, and I can't just leave you into any hotel you'll go. So I said, hey, my home, my living room. I didn't have a guest room in the house. So I said, okay, my living room. My mom says, give her the living room. So we made her the living room. And where she won my heart over completely is that I offered her a cup of tea and a little bit of snack. She liked it. And she says, Kiran, can I be helped to go to Australian High Commission? I said, for what? She said, I've lost all my main bag. Everything's lost. I said, how? She said, got stolen in the train. So I said, you mean to say you lost it all? And now you're telling me after a cup of tea that can I go to Australian High Commission? What kind of a woman are you? And I realized that she was a meditator. Her mother was a Vipassana meditator. So she was a product of meditation, a very cool, calculated woman, and so young at age. I said, you have to be only in my home. I cannot let you be insecure. So she would fly. She flew in about 10 times over the 2-3 years. And that's how the film came up in patches and portions of my life. And she followed me through. And because she was home, she was capturing a lot of, and the only thing, yes, she said, Kiran, I trust you will not interfere in what I said, of course, as long as you keep certain red ribbons, because after all, I'm with my family, and family means my daughter, my parents, they would also have their own space. She says, of course, I would respect that. And she respected. She didn't show me any editing portion. She just did the film all on her own and she released it. And then, of course, I was with her to release. So that's a story. I thought I must do credit to the film, which here's a woman out of the way, coming for years, spending money and collecting money, raising money. Every time she came, collected money, raised money, and she was all 3 in 1. She was sound, camera, edit, everything in one. Producer, everything all in one. She was a very rare woman ahead of her times. Okay, now you asked me about the last question is the women.
United Nations, police advisor and the Security Council had this resolution, I think, 2 decades ago. Women, peace, and security, so very important.
To acknowledge the meaningful participation of women in peacekeeping and peace building. How can we accelerate their participation when we're looking for gender parity and when we're looking for sustainable, peaceful outcomes? How can women play a pivotal role?
Important.
You see, when I joined in 2003, United Nations was looking for a woman. They wanted the United Nations peacekeeping to go into the hands of a woman leader. So they were searched. They did a worldwide search. And they narrowed down on me in India. And they connected with my government of India saying, we want this officer. Could you please ask her to apply? However, we would like to interview her if she's ready and prepared. And she will also compete with other police commissioners. But we certainly would prefer her to apply. And when the government of India rang me up to say, would you apply? Would you apply to the UN peacekeeping? I said, why me? Why should I leave India and leave my parents behind? And I want to travel and live. I'm not very fond of living outside home. I'm not very fond of living overseas. I'm a very homebound girl who travels but returns home by evening. So I'm very home oriented. So I said, but overseas means everything to myself. I'm not very capable because I had my younger sister overseas and I know how everything was being self-managed. So I'm very home supported girl. They said, no, it's very good for India, Kiran. If you get selected, it will be very good. The United Nations is keen that the 2003 peacekeeping operations is led by a woman. So I said, okay, I'll apply. But that meant a lot of preparation. I then prepared to deserve it. I did my homework. I took a long leave a little, and then I studied all the acronyms of the United Nations. That's a language by itself. Yes, that's a fact. They were looking for women in leadership. And you see, they've come a long way. Now, 44% of UN policing is women. 44% of the UN leadership of women in peacekeeping is women. They've come a long way. They've come to almost gender parity. I was with the UN 2 months ago in August, and I was there, and I saw, and that's what the statistics is showing. 44% of the women leadership, commanders and peacekeeping are women today. And the UN is determined to make it 50%. And they've been awarding the best woman peacekeeper of the world. And that's what I was invited for, to be part of that session. But what I'm saying is but that time, that was the beginning the UN wanted to make. They wanted a breakthrough, and they wanted a message to the world policing that you cannot ignore when half of the population is women. You cannot they have to have women also integral part of policing. And that's where the breakthrough came. And we got women peacekeepers. In fact, I played a very pivotal role in ensuring that Indian women peacekeepers, who are in formed units like the CRPF, the Border Security Force, the Reserve Forces, India had plenty. I knew India had plenty, but India was not giving. India was not giving its women ops for peacekeeping operations. And I came back and argued with the government of India. I said, here's a great opportunity. You sent me, now do the needful. Send women, you got reserves, allow women also get an exposure of international peacekeeping, while United Nations also sees. And today, Indian formed units are getting kudos everywhere they're going around the world. They are the company and the platoon and the inspectors and the deputy commissioners of police and the DCPs. They're doing very well. You know where they're doing very well? Because they're connecting very well with people. Women in uniform very naturally connect with people, and people naturally connect with a woman in uniform. So they are able to converse. They're able to collaborate. They're able to community police. And it's changed over a period. So I left UN peacekeeping in 2005. It's 2022 now. All these years, it's exponentially increased in numbers. And United Nations playing a very good role by providing a lot of leadership and a lot of visibility to women in blue caps, in blueberries. That's right. While the rest of the country becomes a sustainable goal. You see, it's one of the sustainable development goals. How about gender parity? So sustainable development goals is compelling governments around the world to co-opt more and more women in uniform. India is doing exceedingly well now in co-opting women in police force. Many women in India have retired as director generals of police. And many women in India today are at the director general of level. And many women in the national police academies are also becoming best cadets of the entire batch of men and women by their own merit. So it's changed the whole complexion. And it's changing.
But when you talk about women in uniform, absolutely, there's empathy, there's kindness, there's connectivity. That's what women are. And yet in a planet that's 50-50, there is no gender parity. We still have a long way to go in the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Indian women, Indian police doesn't have that many women, over probably 10.5%. I mean, United States also 14%, or even less. Why is it that we don't have more female police officers?
It's look, policing has to come from the heart. Policing, to be in uniform, or to be in uniform even in armed forces, it has to be an inner calling, an inner liking. But while the women choose this profession, why are so many more not choosing? The reason is the way they are groomed. Women who are in sports early or are mobile early, mobility and grooming and good schooling makes the difference, and also good parenting. So those who are blessed with forward-looking parenting, those who are looking at dynamic schooling, sports orientation, National Cadet Corps, student early leadership. See, these are the things which she then aspires to. She gets inspired. The girl inspires. So I would wait and watch a little more, because now the sports orientation, equal parenting for boys and girls, better schooling. I think that's more skill development, more mobility, and I think it will bring in more and more women. And it's already making competition possible. Now women are competing for the posts which are available. If you have, let's say, 100 posts, about 1,000 would sit up for the examination, which is very good. So those women who really want to be wearing a uniform, knowing that this is going to engage them 24 hours of the day, are coming. More and more will come. That's where the change is happening in the homes, the schools, and the society itself.
The paradigm shift. When that paradigm shift happens, women get more. And there are trailblazers like you who are there to show them the way and create those pathways that will help them to move on and help their own. And coming back to US, I mean, you were here a few months ago for the launch of Fearless Governance, your book. I mean, you have written many, many books. And I feel the names of the titles of the books are like affirmations. I dare, empowering women, be the change. These are such great titles that the title itself says, wow, I got to read this book because I want to be the change. I want to be empowered. I want to dare. So Fearless Governance is about your tenure as a Lieutenant Governor at Puducherry, almost 5 years, and the change you brought in Ram Niwas, with forward thinking. Not too many people can do that. Share some of those experiences in Raj Niwas.
Renee, I think this was the peak of my experience when I was posted as Lieutenant Governor Puducherry. I think I was almost bubbling with inner experience of administration governance for 35 years of policing. And anywhere I did go, I was always changing things for the better, because that's my nature, is to change things for the better. Because that's what you're for there. You're not there to let things, because if you don't change for the better and you reconcile with status quo and something which is not right, then where's your contribution? You're more a liability as a leader rather than an asset. So my whole approach of work had been, what is the purpose of my being wherever I went? Once I accept a responsibility, I'm there to understand, learn, and change for the better. Leave a better place to once I go. When I was appointed as Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry, now it's a whole territory. It's a whole union territory. It's administration and governance of a whole union territory. And that was a great role. I was very blessed with it. The Prime Minister especially called me and identified me and asked me and entrusted me with this work. And he also told me that go and take care of the financial management in the union territory. Obviously, he was aware that things were not financially correct. Finances were being mismanaged. But financial mismanagement doesn't come out of bad governance. It doesn't come out of good governance. It comes out of bad administration. It's bad governance which leads to bad financial management. So unless I do good administration, how can I do good finance? But he gave me a hint, and I started to explore from day one what is wrong, where all and what is wrong, and who's not doing the right way, and who can do it. So I gave a mission statement from day one of my takeover, is prosperous Puducherry. It's a very important thing to send a message. We are here to make prosperous Puducherry. Now, when you say prosperous Puducherry, which means good for all, it means rule of law. It means financial expediency or financial management, better financial management. So once I started to do and opened up the Raj Niwas as the Lieutenant Governor's office from day one to start listening to people, allowing people to come and tell me. So I fixed out an open hour. That's what the book Fearless Governance is documenting, all the steps I took incrementally, sometimes parallelly, and sometimes incrementally, to see that Puducherry is better administered and its finances are not withered around, and that public money goes where it must. So I start to go on the rounds. I start to have the open house. I put up a grievance redressal system, put up training programs, physical field inspections, celebrations, connecting people with administration, internships. A lot of interns. I opened up the Raj Nivas to interns to come and work with the administration, and I had internships. So all these measures which I've listed out turned out to be leadership issues. All concepts of leadership, where you give a goal, you give a purpose, and you inspire, and you guide, and you co-opt, and you make teams, and then you groom people, and then you empower them. That's where I gave the first T mantra called trust, empowerment, and alignment. I gave them not only a mission statement, I gave them all a administration T mantra. T means T for trust, E for empowerment, and A for alignment. So I said, we will be trustworthy, we will work to empower each other, people empowered so that they can ask and get better services from the government. We'll embolden them to ask, and then we will be in alignment and we'll be accountable. So I think I lived up to the mission statement. I lived up to the T mantra I gave them, and all those leadership practices which I've listed out in the book, Fearless Governance, is exactly incrementally developed. As I did my job, as I learned, as I saw, I continued to evolve. So I actually continued to make the job grow. Yes, I had a lot of hostility. Here I faced raw hostility. Here I faced fierce hostility. Fierce. Because by those who were obviously the big losers. They were losers because this was their monopoly on corruption. They were actually keeping a monopoly on corruption. And that's got broken. That got punctured. And the bureaucrats, of course, fell in line because I was their appraiser. I was after all the administrator and lieutenant governor. I was reporting to the prime minister. My chief secretary did not cooperate with me at all at that time. He tried to sabotage as much as he could. And after a few months, I had to get him transferred out. I had to get him replaced. And the replacement was a very good, fine, good replacement, by which we could work together and deliver together. So with the hostile chief minister, I had to doubly work. With the aligned chief secretary, we could work faster and better. So I did, but the prime minister did respond to my request to say, I have to have a replacement of this saboteur. And that's where a chapter in the book is the saboteur chief secretary. So I did have my own fears, of course, challenges also, which we went to court, a lot of court battles. We fought a lot of court battles because they questioned many of my decisions in the courts of law. Ultimately, each one of them stood the test of time. They were as per the law, and we won it every time, hands down. A stage has come now in Puducherry where the law, because of the judgments, are so clear that the politicians cannot mess around at all with the lieutenant governor's office. Things are so crystal clear because anywhere there was a vacuum or a doubt or a gray area, they challenging me every time in the Supreme Court and the Honorable High Courts, they got clarification. Where's the doubt left? The lieutenant governor's office is an empowered office to deliver without any doubt.
Amazing. I feel, as long as you're true to yourself, you have the right attitude, the right strategy, you may lose a battle here and there, but you'll never lose the war because you're true to yourself, and that's what you've done. And I admire you. I really admire you. Swimming upstream against the current is no mean matter. So that's why we call you Yes, Madam Sir. And in that, I see there's a lot of nature photography in that book. So that's bringing out the photographer in you, as well as you do a lot of meditation, a lot of strict discipline. Is that what keeps you grounded and balanced in the face of adversity?
Oh, you really have read the book, it looks like.
Yes.
Through the book so much. Yes. Look, the iPhone is a great instrument in your hand. It helps you click and capture, and also makes you take little videos and snippets. And since I was in the social media much prior to my lieutenant governor's office stint, I used to earlier also tweet, and I used to always post up pictures even earlier before I did. I continued with that streak of photography and social media handling. So I used to tweet my work. I used to pick up a picture here and there, and I used to even make a minute and a half, a few seconds of video. I stayed connected with my friends who were following me, and there were quite a few, quite a few number. So but the best part is, since I was in the lap of nature, Raj Nivas was like a lap of nature. It had tall palm trees. I had parrots and birds flying in the mornings, coming through, and they were doing their own yoga. I would find them streaming across the length and breadth of the sky. They were all doing yoga. I too was doing my yoga in the lawns. While they were up in the sky, I was on the ground level. And on certain portions, the sky would rise, the sun would rise, and I would see the sunshine piercing through many leaves and the trees. It fascinated me. So sometimes I would click a sunshine, a sunrise. Sometimes I would click the birds. Somewhere I would capture the nest. Somewhere I would get the squirrel on the ground. Somewhere I would see a cat on my yoga mat. All these were coming my way, and I just couldn't resist capturing them. So that's why one of the chapter is that my poetry became photography. So, and yoga and meditation was a part of my morning routine, which I continued with. That really helped me because I could get to my own silence and be my own inner friend. Being your inner friend when you are by yourself is very, very vital. It's very empowering. It's strengthening because your conscience guides you. It tracks you and tells you what could come for you better. So I think I was my own friend in meditation, and I was in the lap of nature. I was one with nature, and it became all a part of my book. And then I had my gym. So I would do the gymming, I would do the yoga, I would do my meditation, all before 9:30 in the morning. So I would get up early and wrap up all this, package up, reading, newspaper reading, listening to the news, doing my yoga, doing my walk, clicking the pictures. The crow certainly would want my breakfast nice biscuit, because he knew I would have one biscuit with my morning tea, which was served. It was great. I had so many friends in this world of birds.
When you're in tune with nature, you're tuned with yourself. I think that itself is so balancing. There's so much to talk to you about. Kiran Bedi, the author, Kiran Bedi, the community activist, Kiran Bedi, the Indian police officer, Kiran Bedi, the United Nations police advisor, Kiran Bedi, the lieutenant governor, Kiran Bedi, the mother, the daughter, the sister, the wife. Is there any other Kiran Bedi that's not come out yet? And we want to take a peek in that.
Renee, I have two very strong social engineering foundations.
Yes.
They grew with me parallelly. One of the foundations is almost 35 years old. When I set up schools for street children, I set up vocational skills for drug peddling women, and I set up drug abuse treatment centers for youth which was in drugs 35 years ago as a police officer, to check crime, to check deviancy, to check delinquency, because I thought that was my primary role as a police officer, is crime prevention, before I moved to crime detection. So I set up these foundations, and that's called the Navjyoti India Foundation. It's 35 years old today. It's benefited thousands and thousands of youth, men and women, in all these areas of educational skills and rehabilitation. And now they are an empire of more and more. They're covering all India because of thanks to the internet. We're doing skills development, connecting with the region. Whoever understands this language, when we do webinar skills development, they're joining my programs of skills development. So Navjyoti India Foundation is now doing artificial intelligence training programs. Dell is our very major partner, which supports us in. So it's all supported by supporters from corporate social responsibility. So it's grown and grown. Then came the Maxis Award in 1994. It was that time when I was in prison work. And I had started to run schools for children inside the prison who were with their mothers because they were not going to school. There was no play-based school. And the children up to the age of 6 in Indian prisons are allowed to stay with their mothers. But there was no schooling for them and there was no exposure for them. I set up a school for them so that they can wean away from their mother's courts and cases so that they can get a normal childhood. Now it was time for me to leave. And I got this award, this international award. Who do I dedicate this award to? I dedicated this award to a new foundation called the India Vision Foundation. But that was to carry forward education of prisoners' children. And today we have celebrated with hundreds of our children. Some of them are mothers today, some of them are teachers and professionals. So I have two foundations which are running parallel in my life. One is 35 plus years old, and the other is almost another 94 to 22. You can see it's already another 25 years plus. So I serve a lot of time, give a lot of attention. I work a lot. My book royalties are donated to foundations. So speaking engagements, fees are also donated to the foundations. So I work a lot for my foundations and thoroughly enjoyed their work. I've today celebrated Diwali with my foundations. I spend a lot of time, I budget time for them to continue. And they are all professionally very well run. And both the foundations actually reach out to thousands every day inside the prisons, inside the street children programs, everywhere. There are thousands every day. We work with rural areas. We work with the women empowerment. We teach them designing, stitching, tailoring. So it's empowerment of women, children, youth, skills, prison reforms, you call it. And we're literally coming to social engineering. So that's another area which keeps me very engaged, but very professionally run. I don't do micromanagement. I just work with them and steer them and give them a vision and a guide and learn from them. Actually, they are such a source of joy for me. They're all very professionally run by directors who are very well qualified and very well provided for by the foundation. Some of them are with the foundation from the beginning. They have grown with the foundation themselves.
Yeah, this is October is a domestic violence month, and you have done a lot for those who have been, there's a gender-based oppression, and especially Indian women, you have helped them a lot. Where do you see this going from your perspective? How you can help them more?
You can only keep moving forward. The more you do, the more relief will come, the more change will come. More you do, more transformation will come. The more you skill, more you economically empower women, the more you educate them, the more you inspire them, the greater the benefit. It's a reach. After all, we are 1.3 billion people. Half of the population is women. And some of them are in rural areas who need more. But Government of India schemes are reaching out a lot to them to financially empower them, professionally skill them, also make them fully aware and health-wise. So I think there's a upsurge, there's a collective surge to make sure that every person in India now contributes to nation building, empowering themselves first. There's a big movement on. I see a positivity, I see an energy, I see a convergence. I see no going back. It'll only do better and better. Men's attitudes being changing, men being trained, better parenting, more dynamic schooling, new education policy. So these things are a lot of financial support systems for women who want to be skilled. So all over from all directions, there is an effort to drive the change.
I think that financial empowerment helps them to make some great decisions when they are going through so much in their life and move them away from those traumatic situations that they have been living in. So just telling them get out of a situation not going to help them. Financially empowering them, giving them the tools, education, awareness, that really helps them to build back their life.
Look, one of the major thing which was called the triple talaq in India, where the Muslim women could be just sent away to say, no, I don't, you divorced. That cannot happen anymore. You dare do it? So look at the empowerment of women. Abortion is not illegal in India. Where is the problem in the West? Abortion is, it's legal. Similarly, triple talaq, see, every woman in every section of society is being benefited. And if a woman is backward and there's a financial assistance available for her to start her entrepreneurship. A woman selling goods on the street can access a loan, very low interest loan, and get earned to start her own shop. So you see, it's covered every level of the strata, every society. There's no section which is being now ignored to have an opportunity to go step forward.
And lastly, Kiranji, how would you sum your life in just one sentence?
I think it's been a life well lived, purposefully, productively, transformatively.
Thank you so very much. There's so much we could have continued forever because there's so much to learn from you and to be inspired by you. And thank you for your time, and happy Deepavali to you, and wishing you all the best. What's next? Any other book coming up after Fearless Governance?
At the moment, the book is still doing its round. I need to do justice so that it stands on its own feet and travels a little more. But maybe my social engineering would be the next goal. How do I document the social engineering? It's all growing. Also making some documentaries out of the LG's work. Because what you got is a book. Now is a question of how do I make a documentary of all that I was recording. So there are a few things in the line. Let's see what surfaces. But at the moment, there's a lot of travel involved. But I want to thank my friend Pam Quatra for having introduced me to you. Yes. Pam is a very dear friend of mine.
And she is to me too. Yes, yes, absolutely.
Very noble woman. She supports me a lot for the education of prisoners' children, she and her friends.
She's been very supportive of me as well.
She's formed a group of G30, and groups of friends have come together to support this cause. I want to thank her.
Absolutely, and I'd like to thank her too. Thank you very much, KiranBedi ji. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I talked to you when you were in the United Nations, and it's been a while, and it's been a long journey. And here you are back again in the saddle and continue to be the I dare. Yes, Madam Sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hope to see you in India sometime.
Absolutely. I'm Dr. Renee Mehrra. Stay healthy, stay positive.